Hey Dramatics, welcome back. So we just finished episode 2 of The Prisoner of Beauty. And Bessie, what did you think of this episode?
This was kind of a roller coaster, low-key, because it's this whole game of perception and things being twisted on their head. Like, they're both playing games. They're both matching each other step for step. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you kind of see this, like, tug of war where they're kind of seeing softer sides of each other. And we're seeing softer sides of them, but at the same time, this is very much still a game. Like, there's a lot of stuff at stake. And so, watching him in action, we get his reputation for cruelty and all that, and how he treated, Lee Soo. But seeing him in action dealing with this whole conflict and rebuilding Zundu, it's like, oh, okay. Is the reputation actually matching who he actually is? Or is there something that we don't know about? Like, is he playing the long game just as much she's playing the long game?
Right.
And it's kind of interesting seeing them go head to head, back and forth with one another. And
it's a battle of wits.
Mm-hmm. And she's going to have to think 10 steps ahead from where he's going, because he's... You can see, and it's both of them. You can see these instances. Maybe this could work. No. We stick to the plan.
Right. Well, there's also a little bit of one-upmanships a bit, especially like when he realizes, oh, you have come to the court to play. Okay. Yep. Okay. You're not that pretty, even though he totally thinks she is, because as we pick up from like episode 1 to episode 2, he's not 100% smitten, but. She got to him.
He's not blind. No. Like, he's not completely immune.
Game recognizes game.
Game recognizes game. He's hot, she's hot, and he's trying not to let her sway him with her wiles and beauty and stuff.
Yes.
He's kind of like, I see you for who you are, trying to play all innocent and stuff, but you are scheming. And again, he's been indoctrinated from 14 years ago. He's not trusting a word that comes out of her mouth, and like, he directly blames her for what happened back then, even though she had nothing to do with it.
By association.
He's like, and it's interesting hearing him make assumptions about her people and her grandfather, especially because from what we saw with the grandfather, they made the alliance with his grandfather. It seemed like it was very genuine. It was a genuine terms, like they weren't trying to scheme and scam each other.
With good intentions in place.
Good intentions were there. It's just they happened to be in a no-win situation where there was no ill intent. There was no, let's try
screw each other
over. It was just a genuine circumstance where they were not going to win either way.
But also, there was a born of, I guess, like a mutual need, essentially.
Right, exactly.
You know, them binding together with the help of that, they can open up these waterways that would benefit the Wei State or the Wei clan versus any kind of like resources or protection that the Chows would need. Wei would come and answer, and so that was like, I guess, like the mutual thing, and and they had made that agreement. We stand together, we fall together. But that's not what happens, and so now we have this circumstances like 14 years later of it being rectified through this mutual marriage. And so where we pick off on episode 2, of course, like he parts that curtain where he's just like, yeah, we cannot have this wedding take place in Pawnee. Y'all can go all the way on, and you can take her with you. Opens up the curtain, they're both just like, damn, you fine. So it's one of those things. Because I also, like I said in the previous episode recap of how I just love how she kind of has like this doe-eyed, curious expression about him. Like I said, it's genuine. I love that it wasn't only on one end. Both ends had that mutual attraction to each other.
And it's interesting because it kind of felt like they were sizing each other up, but at the same time, I think they were thrown off by what they saw in each other. Like,
yeah, I think like they were already sizing each other just by the way that their advisors were going with the tugging back and forth.
Physically, especially.
Right. Because like each of them weren't saying anything until now. I mean, he said something like he threw down the gauntlet, just like, if we can't have it in Pawnee, then forget about this whole thing. She responded with her face card, and he's just like, well, since grandmother said we need to go ahead with this wedding, it's not a bad thing.
You know, it's my
But
grandmother's wish.
It's like grandmother's wish, but at the same time, it better take place in Pawnee. So he gives her a parting gift, quote unquote, before he leaves. And the gift isn't like, jewelry or like a hairpin or anything like that. It's more like, I guess, like the chronicles of the waterways of Pawnee. Her advisor was saying, like, well, it seems like he likes you, okay? She's like, this isn't the gift of him liking me. This is a threat.
Yep.
Regardless of it, his main goal is Pawnee, whether I give it to him or not. So it could either be like a subtle takeover or a hostile one.
Yep.
That's why they're still trying to keep the seal in play to where he can acquiesce to that, so it can be better controlled, to where he's not just going in there and just wiping it up. That's the last thing she needs him to do. And so this whole episode is pretty much on the tug of will they, won't they proceed with the marriage, because this is like the mutual standing around the what was it, line of scrimmage that they're at, to where he won't give and neither will she. So her and her maid go walking around the city, taking pretty much an assessment and everything, and she's wearing her wedding red, and so she stands out very much, and they do that on purpose.
Exactly.
You can tell with the color choices, because even, and I'm sure you probably saw it too, like when she initially steps out, there's kind of like a sepia hue a little bit to it. Like it's caught in a like a sandstorm of sorts, the way it's kind of colored. But of course, like with her red, she stands out because, a lot of these other villagers, I believe, are wearing very neutral tones, like maybe like a gray or a beige or whatever. She's standing out with this full on like red outfit.
And turning heads.
Because, she's beautiful and she'll turn heads no matter what she was wearing. But she stands out in particular because, she is a lady. They already know and clock her, and they all also address her as Lady Wade, even though they're just like, no, she's not
married
that yet. Villagers are just like, are you? Because it's like, if you get married to him, maybe he will chill the F out and not try and slaughter us, because the whole thing is just that, what was it? There was people from Beyond that was there.
Yeah.
And I think Beyond is also an enemy state to them, right? Mm-hmm. They're pretty much like thinking that he was going to go full on bloodthirsty and just slaughter everybody.
There's like refugees. And remember, Shindu just fell.
Yes.
And this is Lisu's territory. And so he kind of ruled them with a bunch of fear, and they've been struggling and suffering. Like, it's dry, there's no food. So they're kind of already in a very weird state, and they're not sure what to make.
Because it's like, are you going to be more or less the same like him?
Exactly.
Or are you going to be different? So they've been trying to do like a census of everybody, of not only just people who all are there, and food. So he's not going through and just like slaughtering anybody. It's like, that name is only available in Beyond. Yeah, he's not doing that at all.
Like, that's a fear that
is a fear. Like, and so people have been reticent in coming forward with like, how much food that they have. And also like, who all is there, so they can just take, a general idea like what the population is like, so they can try and feed that. Because that's the thing too, like, since it's been war torn, of course, like food, I'm sure, has been scarce, especially since apparently Wei has gone through a drought. All of that, I think, influences one and the other. So she, of course, is like, going through the streets, and I think she's also going so she can just hear, ears to the ground, what's going on, so she can plan her next step. Like what she had discussed with her grandfather is just like, what does he need from me? And it's like, it's not just Pawnee. It's going to be like a steady step every single time. It's just like to wear him down, to have him back down, to make both of our lives easier. What can I do to help him out? What do I need to serve the purpose of what he needs at this moment?
Yeah.
That's the overall arching theme, until he's just like, I just want you to service me. Okay, never mind.
That's a couple episodes, but there were a lot of water metaphors throughout the whole episode, and I thought it was interesting because it's like, water wears down stone over time. It might take a long time, but it does wear it down. He's the stone, she's water. She comes from a place that is plentiful with water, whereas he is like the rock and stone and the military might. And it's like they need each other to survive.
Yes.
Their people need each other to survive, and the resources they have to survive, one cannot exist without the other.
Yes.
So it's still interesting that even though their grandfather was not able to still like make good on his alliance, it's like in a way it's still happening where if one lives, the other lives. If one one dies, both of them die.
Yes.
And so there's this mutual need for each other, but no one wants to play their hand. And so hearing everything that's going on in the city, oh God, what's her name? Mama. Hearing what's happening, her and her maids decide to like give out food and stuff and money and
like a soup kitchen.
They open a soup kitchen so people can eat, because that's really their most immediate need is people are starving. And people are like, oh my gosh, she's so nice, she's so sweet, she's so kind. And meanwhile, all this is going on, Wei Xiao and his generals are kind of going through the city, getting their own assessment. And it's funny because the generals are like, well, you defeated Li Su and you're this war hero, like they should be thanking you. And you could tell in a way he's kind of like, I don't know if irritate's the right word, but he's like, why are all these people praising her? Like, what's going on? Like, what's the motive here?
Well, going back to like that when she starts feeding the people because, you know, she saw that was a need.
Yeah.
But also she kind of did that where her mates could start like dropping, oh, we kind of need this well you done. And they're just like, we'll do it.
Yes.
So,
yes.
So they start repairing roads. They start repairing wells, which was stuff that I'm sure him and his journals have asked. But people have been reticent to help. So that's why, like, when people start praising her and they are collecting wildflowers to give to her, it's kind of like with this thing of envy and jealousy.
Yes.
Because, number one, he's been there for, like, way longer than her. I mean, a few days longer, but longer than her. Yet she's able to get stuff done faster than he is. And she's only been there for, like, a day or two.
Exactly.
And so with that, that's the frustration. And also, I'm sure it's the frustration of they're falling for the Chow charm in comparison to him. That must also stick in his craw, too. It's like their side got a point over his. And I also love, like, you know, when she first goes up on the bridge and she's surveying the city to see, like, what all it was at. To me, like, the CGI doesn't quite work.
Right.
Sometimes it's a little at this. You know, with her, she makes, of course, a startling picture because she's all in red. And so she's at the top and she's on this bridge. So I think that's like the highest point in the city. And of course, like, he sees her and it's one of those things where it's just like, she's nothing but a pretty face, that's all. But I'm like, yeah, but that pretty face made you pause a minute, didn't it? So he's kind of like trying to play it down, but at the same time, I'm like, you're looking, you're feeling for her right now, too.
Exactly.
So her being not only beautiful, she's smart, she's intelligent, she's calculating. He knows she's calculating, but not in the way he thinks she's calculating. Exactly. He doesn't want to give her praise because it's almost just like it make him feel guilty about like all the people that, you know, he's taking this revenge for, he's picking up this cause for.
Right.
And so I just love how he's like, she's not that pretty.
She's not all that. But you know what? And it's also one thing I kind of clocked was it's like, once again, she's using her beauty as some way to manipulate people for doing things for her. Is that just how she is? Is that how
they're built? How those chows
are built? They just get people to do whatever and not actually put in the work. Like, you can kind of tell that there's that sort of thing festering. And this happens several times over the course of the episode where he's like, oh, so that's what your grandfather must have did too. And talking shit about like her clan basically, and kind of being like, oh, well, you're manipulative just like your family, just like your grandfather was when he went back on his
pretty much the apple doesn't fall far from
exactly. I think he does it for himself to kind of rein himself in from having those little inklings of feelings that are like, oh, well, she's smart. I kind of like a smart. No, she ain't all that. Bad. Damn boy. Anyway.
That's what's also, like, you know, that comes into play. Just because you're beautiful does not mean I'm going to bend to that.
Exactly.
And he's, you know, also trying to, like, you know, keep himself in line, like you had said, so that he doesn't fall for that, because it's very easy to fall for charms. And you know, empires and looks too. And empires have crumbled for that before. I mean, look at Troy by comparison. And so the whole thing with this is that they're still also at this standoff of, you know, who's going to give first. The Ways want what they want, which is the marriage in Panis. She wants to stay here and still keep the line of scrimmage still favorably on her side, but keep it away from, you know, her family, because she knows that once he's in those gates, it's going to be on and popping, and there's no stopping him. With that, there is also something else that comes up, another person that comes up, and it depends on which version you watch, because we're currently watching Vicky. The Vicky refers to this gentleman, I forget his name, as the magistrate. But I think on Tencent proper on YouTube, I think he's either like the mayor or the governor. I think he was still in place or in power when Lee Soo had came and swept through 14 years ago. And so it's kind of like that. For the good of his people and just keeping everything in play, he kind of like subdued and submitted as Lee Soo had done his reign of terror and taken things over. And so a lot of the people were coming here just like, look, we're worried about what Wei Xiao is going to do here. Also, Wei Xiao has been talking about, we didn't cover this in episode 1, but in the city of Shindu, it's called like the subs on Vicky is like the wall of the people, but I like to call it the prayer wall. And essentially, like, this is kind of a shrine that was built because after Lee Soo did his thing back in the day, he slaughtered not only Wei Xiao's family, also he slaughtered the men and the young men of Shindu. And so the women and children, whoever was left, were not able to go outside the city walls to collect the remains of their loved ones. So eventually, after a while, they would sneak out of the city so they can collect whatever mementos of their loved ones that was still left out there in the fields, and they will smuggle it back in, and then they eventually had erected it along this wall of things to remember their loved ones by, since they could not bury them. And then eventually it turned into a prayer center or shrine. An altar shrine. And it's so gorgeous. I mean, it's a broken wall. It has like a stairway, but it's candles everywhere. And there's bits of like red ribbon and messages written there for like well wishes and prayers. And so it's really gorgeous. It's like, you know, their own kind of version of a chapel or something to where they can go and pray, you know, for whatever they need. And he wants it torn down. And we'll get into later on the episode why he does. Mm-hmm. So with that and the Battle of Wills, I believe, I forget like what maid, I think it was the maid of his grandmother, gave her like a token, like a prayer token or whatever for her to put on the wall. And so while she's there, he comes back. And he sees her there, and of course, he is pissed that she's there. Mm-hmm. And so he gets off his horse, and he pretty much was yelling, like, why are y'all still praying here? I asked y'all to knock this stuff down. And, like, the people are really just like, please do not tear this down. Because, like, to them, this is all they have of their loved ones. To them, I'm sure it feels as if he was going to try and pretty much dig up and evict everyone that's buried at a cemetery. That's very, very sacred to these people. Right. And he's just like, we need to go ahead and take this down. And he's like, and why are you letting her pray here? What we also see is that the mayor, governor, or magistrate is there. And so he's just like, oh, shoot, what's going on here? He pretty much is saying like how we don't need a reminder of what had happened 14 years ago. And of course, like, you letting her pray here is a good reminder of her people is the reason why you lost your loved ones. It's like, not quite.
Not quite.
It was really Lee Soo.
Yeah.
I understand the road you're traveling down, but I can't quite walk all the way there with you.
But
you know?
Again, every catastrophe, everything that went wrong with this life goes back to Man's family. And he's like, really pissed off at the fact that she's there. It's like, of all the people, you have some nerve showing up here, knowing what your grandfather did. You have the nerve to show up in here and look sad when your clan's not keeping up their end of the bargain is the reason why all these people died. Right. And so I understand his standpoint, because, you know, when you see there's already that weird fission between them, and having to be reminded of the person of the clan who was responsible for your family getting slaughtered, you know, you low-key feel like, oh, get the fuck up out of here. This is not for you. This is a sacred place, but you have no place to be here. This is not your right to sit here and look sad.
Right. Like, especially since, like, your family had wrought this. Like, and you are... Not necessarily that she's gloating, but I'm pretty sure it's like, are you feeling victorious about what your family had done? Right. A lot of this memorial was built because of your people doing this. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, essentially it's like blaming her and her family by proxy for the misfortune of having this wall. And he's like, tear this stuff down. The magistrate didn't like that, so he comes with a knife and tries to attack him. And so he puts the magistrate down. He didn't off him or anything like that, but the magistrate gets arrested. Pretty much, like, I guess, like, the next day, it's, like, really the decision on what to do with the magistrate.
Mm-hmm.
And the magistrate is essentially just like, didn't he try to defend Lee Soo at first about like how he was like a really good leader or something weird like that originally?
And the interesting thing about the magistrate too is that he's very much respected by his people.
Very much.
I think even during Lee Soo's tenure, he tried the best that he could to protect his people and keep them safe, so things weren't going to be worse than they actually were. So when the Wei clan took over, he's like, I'm no longer the magistrate anymore. Right. And the people are clamoring for him, like, hey, tell us what's going on. Please lead us. He's like, I'm not the magistrate anymore. I have no power.
Yes.
And so the fact that he attacked Wei Xiao on basically his people's behalf, not necessarily for Lee Soo, but he's like, I'm not having that. And right. He was willing to like, go ahead and kill me, because I'm not gonna.
Right.
I'm not turning my back on my people. You can go ahead and kill me. I don't give a.
Yeah, that's pretty much what he was. It's like, I will die, it's worth it, because he was, like you said, was trying to protect his people. I mean, this is the will of the people and what they want. They had came to him with their fears, and it's almost just like, this dude is pretty much doubling down on what they are fearing. And so it's like, we need to put a stop to that. Mon is also trying to see, like, what is this that's necessary? What is it that the people want?
Exactly.
And so she's always been, like, you know, with her ears to the ground, so is her maids, about what the need has been, what the fear has been with the people, what's the reservation. And so with that, she's also heard about how a lot of people have not been coming towards him. And of course, she can also feel the jealousy from him too.
Oh, yeah.
For that. And so, you know, because a lot of them are also like bending for a pretty face. And he's also saying like, well,
she ain't all that. She just arrived yesterday. You're falling for a pretty face. Get over yourself.
I know, right? I'm sure, like, in his eyes, it's like, y'all seem like y'all just practically fall for anything.
Exactly.
It's like, when it comes to this and this war of minds here, I think she had talked a little with her mates. What is necessary is that someone is going to have to be the bad guy. Mm-hmm. And so she comes to the court while the magistrate is on trial here, and the people are in the background begging for the magistrate's life. Hopefully that Wei Xiao doesn't also show that he is Lee Soo Part 2. Mm-hmm. And she's like, well, it seems that he was trying to take your life yesterday. And also, like, she says something else, and the magistrate kind of, like, tells her that she's a vicious viper or something like that. Or a venomous snake or something along those lines. And so she's like, oh, and you're calling me names. So you probably need to go ahead and be ended. And you know what? We probably need to go ahead and start slaughtering one person. If not, we need to start slaughtering more.
You need to make an example.
And so people are up there calling her names and everything. And so does the magistrate. And so Wei Xiao draws his sword, not to the magistrate,
but to her neck.
And cuts off like a piece of her hair and cuts into her neck a little bit. Not deep, but it will leave a mark.
Just enough to scare her.
She was scared. You see great emotions from her, because she's up here like, you know, clasping her hands together, and she's starting to cry and stuff, because I'm like, that's a scary thing, because her life was literally on the line to do this. Essentially, he's just like, yeah, I'm not going to do what you say.
You're up here being manipulative and once again playing games, because just the other day, the people were like, oh my gosh, she's so sweet and so kind, and people were giving her flowers, and there was one particular scene where after she had been passing out stuff and getting like some of the support of the people, she was in the garden with her maid working on flower arrangements and stuff, and he comes up.
The flowers that the people gave her.
Yeah, and he was like, what the fuck are flowers gonna do? And he grabs one of them, and it's red, and he's like, first he's like peeling off petals, and then he like peels off the whole head, and it keeps getting more violent, like, you're not tricking me. I don't know what you're doing, but...
Well, especially since she's just coming on like docile and agreeable and amenable, and he's just like, I'm not buying that for one split second. You can even still like see that he's intrigued by her.
He's trying to figure out what is her end game, and so it kind of leads up to this main moment where he has that sword to her neck and was like, you know, again, they're tit for tat, just trying to play games. He's seeing through her ruse, or at least understanding like, okay, she's up to something. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to figure it out. And he agrees to let the magistrate go. Like, he does this dramatic thing and cuts the ropes and is like, I want to keep you as the magistrate. You seem to know the people, and we can't rebuild the city if I'm slaughtering people. I don't want to be Lee Soo Part 2.
Yeah.
I defeated Lee Soo. I don't want to continue that. And that makes him look good, and it helps curry favor among the people, and they're praising him. And
he realizes that, too, after the fact.
Mm-hmm. But that means that, Mon Mon is the bad guy, and so they're talking shit about her.
All of a sudden, you're just like, oh, she's beautiful, and now they're just like, she's ugly. She's not all that.
Actually, she's really ugly. She's a troll,
And it's just like, even
with... turn on a dime, just...
And what I like about it is that even with him saying, like, I'm not going to fall for your charms, like, you're practically, like, being manipulative, and I'm not going to fall down that path. I'm not going to be pliable and be molded into what you want me to be.
Exactly.
And I'm going to go ahead and, like, still be the adversary against, like, what you were presenting and coming to me with. Even though with that, when he realizes, which I believe is like a great testament of his character, like you said, she's up to something, I just don't know what. But then when the full play comes through, he understands what it was and why it was, why it happened the way it did. I like when the people are up there pelting her carriage with food. I'm like, aren't y'all
starving?
Yes.
Aren't y'all basically going through a famine?
Practically.
Like, they're throwing lettuce. I was like, hey, that's some good lettuce right there.
Because I'm like, they were about to riot when they didn't get any grain, like when grain ran out.
And that's another ongoing thing that's been happening where, again, the city, they're low-key kind of starving. And so Lei Xiao is like, okay, we're going to ration. And so that's part of the reason why they wanted people to register, so they could get an idea of like, okay, how much grain do we really need? How much do we need to feed people? And after that point, people start coming out, they start registering. You see people holding bags of grain and they're so happy and stuff. But it gets to a point where people are, now that they're feeding everybody and doing all that, people are coming back for more and more, and they keep running out of grain, and that's causing some issues where people are basically, they're having tantrums once they run out for the day. It's getting so bad that they're like now rationing the army's grain, and they're running out. And Wei Xiao's advisor is like, hey, if you get married to Mon Mon, we have access to Pianyi, and that means that we can get more grain in. And one of the things that happened during the episode was Mon Mon came in later on and was like, hey, I would like to get married in 3 days. Like, this is the most auspicious day.
Yes.
After that, we'd have to wait a long time. So it gives an incentive to move things along, and especially with the people clamoring for more grain, or starving, and food running out, and not having those water resources. Guess where they could get that from? And guess what he needs in order to access it?
But it's like, again, it's like that give or take, that stubbornness is weighing out. But but the thing about this is, like, it can't be stubborn amongst themselves, because now there's other dire things at stake, like, people's lives and their livelihood, and, they're trying to prevent, any kind of further starvation. But it's kind of hard to do that when you don't have the resources. But the resources is at hand. It's just that stubborn people are refusing to stand down because it's like a matter of life and death on another side of it if he gets through with his current temperament.
And it's also a matter of pride for both of them, because she understands people are starving, so in some ways she is desperate to get people the help that they need. And so her manipulating doesn't feel as bad as it seems. Like, to him it seems like she's just being a cold-hearted viper trying to get at him and all this other stuff. But it's like, people do need food. We probably have to go through with the wedding anyway. And she's having to weigh, I don't want to do this, but we kind of have to. If we get food, that keeps him.
Yes.
It gives him a little bit more leverage to maybe spare her clan, feed the people, keep them pacified, and then maybe they can kind of go from there. But you're still going back and forth with the whole thing with Pianyi and where to have the wedding.
Yes.
And so at the end, we have her coming in with the seal and presenting it, and then he opens a box, and it's so interesting seeing his face when he's looking at it. It's like a little kid with a toy. He's like, oh my gosh, what I've always wanted. And
also a bit devious.
Yes.
Because it's like, you played right into my hands. You exactly
what I did.
But even before then, the prayer wall. The recitation of the prayer wall. Because that's what all we led up to it. So what had kind of like fixed her decision to go ahead and give him the seal to Pawnee. They went to the prayer wall, and of course, like he started tearing down the prayer wall. And the reason why he wanted to tear down the prayer wall is essentially he's like, we don't really need a reminder of the horrible acts that had taken place 14 years ago.
Right.
And I think really also from a selfish standpoint, he doesn't want to be reminded of what took place 14 years ago because that's already living in his mind rent-free.
Right.
And so he doesn't need a physical reminder of all of that and all of that grief. It's like more like, let us eradicate all of that and start fresh from there. Because he also kind of gave the magistrate the seal to Shindu so that the magistrate could still control it like you had said.
Mm-hmm.
It'll still be under his still, especially if the way state or moves on. At least they'll have someone to facilitate the city. And so with that, he also makes the announcement that no matter where you're from, if you're from beyond, I keep on saying, it sounds like beyond, but if you are from beyond, or if you're from yon, or if you're from way, no matter where you are, and you make a home in Shindu, like you'll pretty much be a citizen of Shindu. You won't have any issues. You won't be cast out or nothing like that. You will be at home here.
Right.
And so she's there in earshot. And so when he made that announcement, but you realize it was intentional.
Exactly.
On purpose. Because through the ash, or I'm not sure if it was like before they started tearing down the wall or after, he finds a memento. And that memento was, I guess, like a horse cover, like where you put it along the horse's brow that his grandfather had.
Yeah.
And so with that kind of, I think, spurred where he's just like, I know how I can get her.
Exactly. And when he made that announcement, what was interesting, he's like, okay, we have to forget all of our past grudges from 14 years ago, which we know is kind of bullshit because he's not going to let down that grudge he has against her people. Mm-mm. But that's more for the people's benefit, for the magistrate's benefit.
Do as I say, and as I do.
And
also for her.
That one act, you could see her melting a little bit like, oh, okay, maybe he's not so bad. And with her, it's so interesting because you see her melting at times. She's not as, no, get it together. You could tell it's a very genuine reaction, like, okay, maybe he's not what I anticipated. But it's interesting when his stuff gets revealed, it has a more visceral response later on. So, you can see her kind of touched by it, and you see him kind of clocking that, like, look, got her. And then...
Because it's like, I think it's also interesting, like we had said, what it's so interesting about this drama is that what she's doing, of course, is not out of maliciousness at all.
No.
We all acknowledge this. It's just out of the sake of just trying to protect her people and protect all people. Like, she is a person of the people, where she just wants to make sure that everyone is taken care of and living in harmony. Like, she is of the live and let live camp, for sure. That, especially with her going into this marriage, what her grandfather had also kind of like said in episode 1 is that pretty much like once you marry into his people, they will essentially become your people. You have to take care of him and his people, regardless of like, the animosity or whatever you have to go against them. It's like he has said, you have to be like the water, you have to wear them away. And so I love that she was trying to be patient and trying like, hey, this is going to be a mutual beneficial arrangement if you will let it. And he didn't want to. Exactly.
But also, during that scene, it was interesting because you could kind of see him low-key kind of falling for her in the way that she was looking. He had the softness of like, damn, she's kind of pretty in this light. She's kind of like when those walls are broken down and she's not having to play like strategy battleship with him all the time. It's like, oh, I'm feeling, but no. But I got her. I have something on her. I have.
Yes. Well, and that's the thing. It's like, I think it's also with the thing of like him not trusting what that look meant.
Right.
Because like, yes, he softened. I believe that wasn't him just softening on purpose so he can look like he's a little bit more sympathetic and empathetic. His reaction was based off of her reaction.
Exactly.
And it was like, oh wow, like, he sees the care in her, but that was also something he could use against her.
Right.
And so I'm like, I think that's just so fascinating because you know how a lot of people just like, it's either this motion or that. It can be both. Yeah. It can be both. And so I love that display of, like you said, I think she's so beautiful. She's kind and considerate, but I'm not going to let that soften my heart. I have too much at stake.
And especially because he clocked that she was acting very early on. And it's like, yeah, I know you did that for my benefit, being the bitchy one to make me look good. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to tell you, I'm on to you. Don't do that.
Like, don't do that.
Like, and it's like they're both manipulating. They're both kind of like...
They're playing the game.
They're playing a game. And there are times where he does certain things, where he takes certain actions where I genuinely feel like he is being genuine, for trying to protect the people, trying to get them in good terms so they can trust him. Because if he can get them on his side, then, you know, they can rebuild an army. They can work at getting resources done. Because he was like, why is it that we still don't have wells? Why is it that the bridges are not up? We have to have this guard tower up here so we can shoot arrows.
Yes.
Why is this not getting done? Where those were reinforcements that could help rebuild the city. And meanwhile, this pretty girl comes along and uses her little feminine wiles. And, you know.
Yes.
And so it's just funny that they're both acting not for malicious purposes, but it makes them look malicious from each other's perspective.
Yes.
And in a way, it kind of reminded me to the end of the moon, because both of them have their own agendas, their own goals in mind, and the way that they make decisions, like, the intent is usually good, but it comes off the wrong way because of their own preconceived biases.
Yes.
And it's like, oh shit, like,
yes.
like they're playing this weird little game where they're trying to match each other, and in a way it's kind of interesting and funny, because it's like, oh yeah, y'all are, but you know, they're getting into each other, but at the same time they don't trust what they're seeing, they don't trust what things at face value, which is smart, because you can't be in a leadership role like this and just, you know, be so willing to flow with the wind when people tell you to do stuff. And so I like that they have their own individual advisors. And I do appreciate that Wei Xiao is more willing to listen to his advisor. Like, he's a much more reasonable... After a while. It takes a bit, but, like, he tends to cool down some of his hot-headed nature a little bit. Because he's very, like, impulsive at times. He's like, no, I'm ready to go. Let's dance. Let's battle. He's like, whoa, hold on. Let's think of the implications. And in a way, I'm seeing that Men could be that for him as well. And so it's like, if he could get past his own biases, he could see that she would be a great asset to him.
Absolutely.
They would be a great power couple, but they both have to get over themselves.
Right. And the thing was, I think she's willing to, but it's one of those things, it's like, I'm willing to stand down if you are not going to attack my people. If she had that off the table, she would be fine.
If that was a guarantee. If like, my people are safe. Because really, I think that's all she cares about. She's not really concerned for herself so much, but more about doing what has to be done to keep her people safe. And I think there's a certain amount of mutual respect in both of them trying to do that for each other. But they haven't gotten to a point where they can fully trust one another yet, or trust each other's motives, or understand each other on why they do the things that they do.
And I think it's more receptive that she will understand, of course, more than he does, because, you know, she's not coming at him with an antagonistic kind of, like, retribution like he is. With that, it's kind of like, you know, she is going to be more on the defense than he is. Even though he might be backing her up into a corner, you know, she's still really good at rerouting an issue or a problem to where, especially if there's another need that needs to be addressed or whatever, she can redirect that aggro over to that.
Like water. So, you flow and move as you need to. And in a way, it's a good asset because it allows her to adapt and change. But at the same time, it just increases his distrust because she's not consistent enough for him to be like, okay, what are you doing? Like, what is this about?
But of course, it's also still, you know, early days yet because of it. But it's funny how you said, like, this reminded you about Till the End of the Moon, because I thought the same thing. It also kind of gives me Love Between Fairy and Devil aspects too. Just for the enemies to lovers kind of aspect, being on opposite sides of the war. And, you know, you wanting and trusting one side of the story when it's not really the case. A lot of things are a lot different when you start meeting in the middle. But the thing about it is also with this, the facts are what they are, because it's not necessarily skewed, because yes, he only has his perspective, but you can't dismiss what he witnessed and what her family didn't do.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that's the hard facts of it, even though he doesn't understand at this moment why he did it, but to his family, it was still a betrayal when practically it was kind of like a blood oath contract of sorts, essentially. That's what it kind of felt like, to where we were supposed to do this like ride or die together, and you failed in that.
Right.
And so, you know,
you already went back on a promise, so
absolutely.
Why should I trust you? And I think I thought of like military and stuff like that. There's a very strong pact of brotherhood and leave no man behind and all this other stuff. So coming from a more like war military background with his plan, that probably is like the ultimate, like,
yes,
you know,
like you would never do that.
Yeah. And so I could see why he could take that like to heart. Like,
yes,
I hate you because of what your grandfather did. And that's weirder, that whole sins of the father type thing.
Yes.
And where you just think that just gets passed along, and it's just like, damn, like, imagine like your great grandfather did something shitty, and then they're like, their descendants are treating you like shit because it's like, I wasn't even there.
Right.
Like,
It's like I didn't even. I was literally just walking.
I was a twinkle in somebody's eye. Like,
not even a thought. And I mean, that's how it always is. Like, you know,
mm-hmm.
sense of the father and whatnot. I'm like, that's why, you know, you got like so many like issues, you know, nowadays, you know, that we all deal with too. So that bad blood can carry on for generations, to the point where like generations down the line, it's like, we don't even know why this is happening. Y'all just told us we're supposed to hate these people.
Exactly.
For what reason? I don't even know. I don't understand.
One thing we forgot to talk about was us finding out that he's scared of the dark.
Yes.
And he always sleeps with a sword next to him.
Yes.
And I was like, damn, this boy's traumatized. Like,
which I'm like, I don't blame him. Because I'm like, it would be one thing if this had happened 5 years ago. Yes, he would still be like, you know, very traumatized from it. But I'm like, he was a child when that happened.
Yeah.
So that is very, I'm sure it affected his psyche very much so. And it's also going to be like another thing. I'm sure that's eventually she's going to have to work with him on, like get him through it. And to me, like, that's his, I guess, like, his most vulnerable spot is his family. Once he's able to lean on her and trust in her and that, then it's game over. It's going to be, like, on and popping, for sure.
Hopefully the nightmares stop, because he keeps having nightmares, so I think that's part of the reason why. And, like, his generals were like, yeah, he doesn't have anyone sleep in with him. Like, he always sleeps with his sword, and you see him clutching it, and you could see, like, he's still kind of stirring to sleep. I'm like, boy, do you actually get to rest? Like, and
I mean, he can't, because it's one of those things, like, it's so hard at the top, and you always have to be paranoid with enemies and stuff, and especially since, like, you know, he's been at war for however long, and so, I mean, you can probably debate that maybe he gets better rest when he's secured in his own house, but probably not. But yeah, he's out in like still enemy territory. He doesn't know, you know, anything to keep him safe. So, I guess with that then, because I think we covered everything about episode 2. So what's your predictions for episode 3?
Oh, I know. I'm just like,
well, I guess like with this scene of him practically getting the seal, it's just like, yeah, you think because you're beautiful and like and witty, you're going to like turn my head. No.
The way he tossed that thing back, the seal.
I'm just like, don't break it.
I was like, oh no, and you can see her panic, like, oh no, what? I miscalculated.
That's the thing. She's like, I messed up.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So I guess like post this scene, like, what do you think is going to happen next?
I think they're going to have the wedding. I don't know if it's going to be this episode necessarily, but I think they're going to have the wedding to kind of get things unlocked. And I'm hoping we get to see something vulnerable happen on his side to sort of make him understand that maybe she's not as bad as she seems, that what she's doing makes a little bit more sense in context. You know what? I would not be surprised if we find out the real reason why the cousin ran away. I would be interested to see if he finds out what happened. I don't know. I don't know. That's the trouble.
Those are some good those are some good guesses.
But I feel like they're gonna speed up the wedding, but it's gonna be some crazy circumstances that something happens during it.
Oh, it does. I think you're actually going to love episode 3.
Oh, I can't wait. I want to see.
So, with that, I guess we should move on then.
Yes.
All right, so we're going to go on to episode 3 of The Prisoner of Beauty, and we are going to get back with you on our thoughts.